Alright, here's a beat up, dirty, plastic, bashed up Admiral tube radio with about 5 cracks in the case. And it looks like through the camera it makes the red look a lot redder than this looks more pink in person, but anyway, it's Admiral AM standard AM broadcast 5 tube radio from 1958, and it's just your your basic off and on and tuning 5 tube set, nothing real special. I got this at a hamfest when I was in Indiana for $2, I think is what I paid for it. It was about $2. And I got it with another Admiral radio, which is an AM FM set, and it had a bad FM tube in it, and I replaced that, and it's working on FM. But we'll probably do a little tune-up or something on that one later on in another video. I just mainly got it working, and hadn't fooled with it. And this one's about the same way. I this one had a bad filter cap. I replaced it. No need for me to really show that. I think I've done that repair 150,000 times, it seems like. But anyway, so this little radio here is working, but I'm gonna go through it, and there's a couple of caps I want to change, and I want to go through and check some of the resistors in it and see if they're okay. I mean, the more than I paid for this set. Of course, I've cleaned it up since I got it. It was a dirty mess, and has a piece of tape on top of it. It had a customer's name on it. The guys that I bought this from were selling out of the back of their van in the parking lot at a hamfest. They had a bunch of test equipment and old TVs and a bunch of old TV parts, and I think I remember a CRT tester they had, and signal generator and some stuff like that they had in the back of their van. And a lot of that stuff looked like it had been sitting in somebody's barn for about 20 or 30 years because it was full of dust and dirt and everything, and this was really no exception. So anyway, they were selling a lot of that test equipment about as fast as they could get it out of the boxes. These guys were all over that stuff, and they had this set and that other Admiral set that I mentioned earlier out sitting in front of a table, and I said, well, how much for these? And so they gave me a price. I think I give them $5 for both sets. So with those kind of prices, you can't really argue, and if you got to do a little bit of repairs on it, who cares, for no more money than that. But anyway, this one had a dried out filter cap, which I never threw away. I've got it right here. Just what is that, an Ajax electrolytic, and it's 50 microfarad, 30 microfarad, 150 volt. Nothing unusual or strange there. It was completely gone. Let's just throw that in the trash. I just saved that for the video's sake. I replaced the filter cap on this thing about 2 months ago. So anyway, let's open it up and see what we got to work with. It's nothing special, just a printed circuit board in there. And I don't know whether I mentioned this just a minute ago. This is a Admiral model 245, chassis number 5B4. Alright, and here's the chassis. Just a 5 tube radio with a printed circuit board. I did notice inside the set there's no couplets over by the audio tube, so that's a good thing. It's just a pretty simple little set. Looks like a ferrite bar antenna. Somebody has taped this audio output transformer onto the back of that speaker, so I would assume that's a replacement from some time or another. We'll have to see if we can address that situation and try and clamp that down to the speaker or something, make that a little bit better than a piece of black tape. Anyway, so we got a couple of capacitors down here, a Bumble Bomb and one of those little red plastic caps is down there up under the speaker. You can see it right there. Need to be changed out. Those need to go, and I'm gonna spot check these resistors and see what they look like, but with the exception of those two capacitors, it looks like mainly we have disc. And this is a pretty simple set, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It keeps the problems at bay, and of course repairmen probably didn't really like these sets. I don't know if they probably didn't give a whole lot of trouble, but from a reliability standpoint, simplicity is not always bad. Alright, in order to remove the chassis, I'm going to point out how you take it apart. You have these two screws here and here that you'll need to take out, pull the knobs off of it, and there's a screw that holds this in down in there. You may find it a little easier to use a socket, a deep well socket, to take that off. You pull the tuning knob off. There's a Phillips head screw behind the tuning knob that you'll need to remove, and the chassis will, or the circuit board will pretty much pull away from the front faceplate. Now you may choose to go ahead and pull the speaker off of it, which looks like it involves 4 screws, which one of them's missing on this one. But anyway, whatever makes it easier for you. And we got these two capacitors here we're going to change, and then check the resistors on it. Okay, so we got our resistors and capacitors replaced, and my checking of the resistors in here found quite a bit of them bad. A lot of them have gone way up in value. Let's see. Looks like I replaced 5 of them. There's those, and there's our 2 capacitors we replaced. So anyway, some of the tolerances were exceeded fairly decent. So anyway, we got all of our resistors and capacitors replaced, and so we're kind of nearing the end of this thing. So I could go through and check the tubes on this thing. It plays pretty good. I'm not too concerned about it, but I guess we could check them, see what's going on with them. Alright, and checking our 50C5 audio output tube. Yeah, over 70%. That's an original Admiral tube, and looks like it's pretty good. And checking our 35W4 rectifier tube. About 73 or so. Alright, and here's our 12BE6, which is our converter tube. Checks about 60 or so. Not the strongest tube, but not the weakest. It seems to be picking up a little bit as I hold it down, so still good enough. This tester is a little bit on the stingy side, so I have to be aware of that sometimes. Alright, and here's our 12BA6, which is an original Admiral tube. The 35W4 and the 12BE6 were replacement RCA tubes. This one is an original Admiral tube. And I've given it the normal 10-minute warm-up time. And it comes in at about 73%. Or 73 on my tester, so not bad. And the last tube in the set that we haven't checked are 12 AB6, which is our first audio tube, and it checks over 72, about 72, 73, not too bad. Original Admiral tube, which had this tube shield over it.
The address, Pacific Garden Mission, Chicago, Illinois, 60605. You may call Pacific Garden Mission in Chicago and talk with someone who cares. Area...
Do they really?
And investigating matters involving finances. Do you think so? Because I'm not so sure what people know or don't know anymore.
Alright, so here it is back in the cabinet. I'll turn the light on for a minute, and I finally got that stupid masking tape off. It's probably been on there for 30 or 40 years.
According to them. And if you read the deep state leaks, of course,
It's gotten so hard I just had to soak it and get it to come off.
Anyway, the overwhelming indicated they did not believe the...
Looks like
Oh, the mom.
it's like 1290's off the air again. That's no surprise.
On CNN. So CNN puts this poll up, assuming that all of it.
It's also no surprise. I can't pick up anything but the local 2 that's on the air right now.
Come up with a...
Actually got 3 local stations, but one of them is lately has become part-time, and they seem to go off the air quite a bit and usually make no effort to try to get back on the air. I remember one time they were off a whole 6 months before they finally magically reappeared, and I thought they had gone off the air for good, being off the air that long, but they magically reappeared on the air, and they've been off and on. Seems like sometimes when we get a storm, they're off, they shut it down or whatever and don't turn it back on for another week. So anyway,
M.J. Sekulow, the President's attorney, Chief Counsel, American Center for Law and Justice, Kevin Jackson, stopped.
So anyway, there's my 1958 Admiral 245, model 245 from the late 50s. It's kind of rare. I picked this thing up because, you know, I know it's not in the best condition, but I picked it up because it's a colored radio, red and white, and it's rare that you find radios that are colored. Usually those bring premium prices. So anyway, there it goes.
WYFF-TV reports that according to deputies, 2 people were sitting in the car when Oliver carjacked it while armed with a knife.
So hopefully it'll be going for another couple of decades before anything goes with it. Thanks for watching.